Microphone check. Microphone check. To the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor. Get the Unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Devon Morris. This is the Unfiltered call-in show. We're just trying to answer people's questions, talk a little bit about Scrum and all that other kind of stuff. Agile, Scrum, all the things within that. Entrepreneurship, if you want to talk about that. Today's been an interesting day. We actually started a self-mastery challenge today. Had a lot of people on for the self-mastery challenge, so I probably have hit you all with too much information today. So hopefully some of you will be around and we can actually have some solid conversations. But tonight is going to be special because I got a brother here that is to me a star. I remember when I first met him, right? And he came in the Scrum Alliance as a board member and all this other craziness. I'm out here struggling on the ground doing Scrum, and he just come in straight as a board member. I never met him before. I was like, okay, this can work. But I'll let him introduce himself in just a minute. So this week we're continuing our self-mastery challenge. We got classes coming way later. We do this every Monday around this time, so you're welcome to bring your questions. And you also know, most people know as well, the biggest reason why we're doing this is so then you can have content that you can refer to anytime, right? Because just note, this will all be there on YouTube for you to look at in the future. And I do like to chop them up sometimes, so we'll chop this one up as well. So that being said, without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a guest. Why not bring in a guest right now? So let's work on bringing in that guest. Let me get them all situated and bring them on into the show. Okay? Hello, sir. You can hear me, can't you?
I could hear you, Devon. What's up, bro?
How you doing, man? How you doing? Now you see how you framed up here. Now you can't go over there.
I know. I'm playing with my light. I don't want too much like glare. And
Now you didn't play with your light so much that I can't hear you. I cannot hear you at all. You went straight out.
Yeah, because it looks like I just muted myself as I was going back and forth, trying to figure things out. So, I gotta make sure that things are working right. So,
okay,
just give me a second.
No,
I should have checked. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why you see me dancing around. Because while I'm dancing around, I'm checking everything, doing the microphone check, everything else as I'm dancing around.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of, so you all know, today must be Technical Issues Monday because I did all this work setting up things for this challenge. And then once I did all that work setting up things for the challenge, everything fell apart. I mean, I set up all these scenes, within the tool, and then my iPad was connected to my computer, and it was working. I'm swearing, it was working last night. I checked it early this morning before I started, and then as soon as I'm about to hit the show, two things happened. The live stream that I hit, it went down immediately. As soon as I started, it went down. Man. That was a tragedy. And then the technology just didn't work for me, so I just had to take it a little bit old school and just go back to what I would normally do. And matter of fact, I've been teaching a class all day at that. That's what's crazy. So I was using the technology, and then it just didn't want to work. So it happens all the time. So
you know how that is, right?
All right, but you do me a favor, man. Introduce yourself. You know yourself better than anybody else. Introduce yourself, and here's the deal, man. I have to say it this way, right? So I'm here in the Agile for Humanity conference over the weekend. Now, I attended last year. And so I attended this year, right? And Dr. Dave just does not give himself many accolades, right? It would be nice if he would give himself a few accolades because that would be beneficial in people understanding how we have greatness within our presence, right? And so I'd like for you to introduce yourself, and I'm probably going to throw a couple things in there just to make sure you don't forget too much. So I'll let you have the floor.
All right. Well, I'm a business executive and enterprise agile coach. Um, God, I started
Hence
in
the
this
problem.
my agile journey maybe about 20, 21 years ago. I mean, got sucked into this space, what I call accidental type career shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
uh,
let me ask you
yeah.
why you at that, because this is where you start to brush over everything. What was that one thing
Uh-huh.
that got you truly interested in Agile, in Scrum, Agile, the whole kit and caboodle? What happened?
Well, I wasn't a believer at first, right? This is 2001, and this guy from Denver
Mm-hmm.
uh, came in. I'm an enterprise architect, and he wants to shift the way we work. And I'm not like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. And then he said, well, this is brand new stuff. People have been working in this since the mid 1990s. I said, yeah, but it's not well known. So he said, let's run an experiment. So we ran an experiment, and then we started to see positive results where teams are working well together.
Mm-hmm.
We're delivering things in smaller increments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of that started to happen, and I'm going like, okay, let's do a little bit more. So
Okay.
we did a little bit more, and then we started competing against Accenture, right? Accenture and Deloitte and Touche,
Right.
and then we actually ended up being this bunchy group of contractors, consultants,
Okay.
being able to compete against them and win this contract
Okay.
at this huge financial institution at the time. So that's where it all started.
Now, do you
Where
remember
the
who was
belief
the
is it's
person?
actually,
Do you remember the person who actually
uh,
introduced you to it? Do you remember that name?
yeah, his name was Steve Ruther. He actually lives in Texas. He lives in your state.
Okay. Okay. I haven't. Have I met Steve? I don't think I
At
met
the
Steve.
time he was living in Southern California. We both were living in Southern California,
Okay.
but now he is, doing his thing
Okay.
over in Texas right now, actually in Dallas, actually.
Oh well, I'm in Dallas for work, so he's
Oop,
down somewhat
yeah,
close, right? He's in the neighborhood, right?
somewhere close to where you at. Yeah,
Right. So then the
yeah.
next question I have for you is, what made you decide to study this further? Because you actually took this all the way, ultimately getting a PhD, dissertation in Scrum, being a board member. So tell us about your journey.
Um, so when I decided to get a doctorate,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at, I've already studied undergrad school computer science a master studying artificial intelligence, and
Mm-hmm.
then I got an MBA. Then I'm going like, well, I'm gonna go, let's get to the damn finish line.
Yeah.
My mother kind of convinced me. So as I was looking at different topics, and I've really been working with in Agile for a while now, and I've been like, there's not a lot of research out there about Agile as a practice. I mean, more specifically, at the time, there wasn't a lot of research about Scrum.
Okay.
And so the decision was, hey, you know what? Why don't I just study Scrum? So when I say study it, I'm talking about going deep dive into Scrum, where it came from, its origins, who have used it, who were the first people who touched it, who came up with the different ideas for why it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote my doctoral dissertation on the value of Scrum to organizations. So I did a case study of about 32 companies. Normally, some people do a case study about one or two. I did 32 companies,
Okay.
right? I wanted to make sure that whatever was discovered and what we call in the academic space, it was generalizable,
Okay.
right? That it could be used across multiple different domains.
Okay.
That was the emphasis,
Okay.
right, of really doing that. So
And when you came out with your results, what did it really tell you? Because you're still here. If it wasn't working, you'd be like, "Hey, I'm out of here," right?
so what you know what it what was discovered was really is that leadership it was looking at it from a lens of how does leadership really use this and bring this into the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Is that leaders could actually use this practice to change the way work is done within their enterprise, within their organization. People, could change their behaviors and their attitude toward delivering value for their customers.
Okay.
It's like bringing customers all on board um, into what was being built. And we're not just talking about just software, but we're looking at it across the board. So people could plan and prioritize. They have an opportunity to sit down and discuss and commit to the work and then execute on that work. And then when it's done, they do inspect and adapt. Did it work? Did we get some value here? So that was one of the things that was called out in the research itself. So that research has been published. It's
Hmm.
been certified by universities across the globe
Okay.
as one of the research on the value of Scrum to organizations. So it wasn't looking at it down at a team level. This is what would happen if, from a leadership context,
Okay.
you pivoted and changed the way you worked.
That's
In,
interesting.
in
So,
just
so
yeah.
how does that impact your work today?
Well, I'm all things agile, man. Everything that I do, and I get in trouble. Even my wife. My wife is a Scrum Master. I got her, you know, got her certified as a Scrum Master.
Uh huh.
My son got certified as a Scrum Master.
The whole
So,
family.
um, Agile is a thing that we do. So,
Okay. Now you
yeah.
got a little blurry there. I don't know why you got it blurry, but
Yeah,
you all of
I
a
mean,
sudden got
my
blurry.
camera is interesting in
Wow,
that
you we don't have to
I've just
meet. You don't have to sit with me, man. I'm gonna have to talk to you about technology now. I'm gonna have to work with you on that.
man, I know all about technology, but I have this super high HD camera
Uh huh.
that every now and then, if we go in a certain spot, it gets blurry, and so either I turn it off or I bring my hand next to it, and
And
then
it
it
works.
refreshes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so then tell
yeah.
me about some of the stuff that you're doing because you're doing like you're doing three, four, five, six, seven, 10 things. So tell us about some of the things
I
that
have
you're
too many
doing.
things.
Talk to us about
So,
it.
so I'm grateful for you, man. I'm grateful for you that you came and participated in our conference, the Agile for Humanity conference, where we are creating space for the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, to at least to be highlighted, to
Mm-hmm.
bring their voices out. So in this past weekend, we had people from the Navajo tribe, we had people from Latinx, right? We have Black folks, we have people who are white, we have people from Africa,
Mm-hmm.
from India. So what we're doing is expanding the reach of agility across the globe,
Right.
making sure people can come in and have different type of topics
Okay.
is one thing. So that's kind of do that once a year, and then 6 times a year we have a meetup, right? And we have topics around different things that are going on in agile, and it's not just limited to frameworks.
Okay.
So we could have conversations about design thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? We could have conversations about women and how they're working within the agile space and how they're being successful. So it's not just talking about frameworks, it's talking about how do we use the framework
Mm-hmm.
to provide value back to human beings, right? So that's where Agile for Humanity is, right? And so that's one big thing that I
Okay.
do
Now here's
every
the deal.
year.
Now I'll tell everybody so they
Uh-huh.
understand, right? Last year, I went
Yep.
to the conference for the first time. Now I don't know if that was the first time, second time, 20th time, right? But I went to the conference last year, and I met. Let's see, I met two women, and we created the Melanated Action Society, right? And
Yes.
out of that group, we meet quarterly. We haven't invited Dr. Dave because we don't want him to take over the thing. But the idea
You just
is
don't want me there, man.
we've had several meetings, and I think we're having a meeting coming March 18th, I do believe. So we meet for about an hour and a half, and really it's more like just a connection of people. Our objective is to have action ultimately come out of it, and then not just be about agile, but truly have action coming out of it, even though it's mostly agilists that have come together. So that is a direct result of last year's conference, like literally pulling people together. So I applaud you for that one, seriously. What else are you doing, sir?
Well, we work with high school students. So, we have this thing called Five Saturdays, and it's actually one of the Scrum Alliance's pet projects,
Okay.
right? And we've been working with the Scrum Alliance since about 2015. So when I was living back in Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
we decided to take software development,
Mm-hmm.
and as a STEM, think of it as STEM, into the LA area, into Los Angeles, and begin to teach how do you build software
Mm-hmm.
and bring that into the BIPOC community, underestimated community. So, to me, one of the things that was missing is actually, a delivery framework like Scrum or
Mm-hmm.
Kanban, right? And so we built a series of curriculum and began to teach that there. So now, over the years, we've expanded it into different parts of Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
in Arizona. We're doing some stuff now in Nigeria. So
Okay.
we have this practice of not only just, yes, we use Scrum or Kanban to teach kids how to, what I call collaborative based learning, how
Mm-hmm.
to work well together and deliver things, but we're actually teaching them a tangible skill.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at the focus of, hey, can I teach you to be an entrepreneur? And you use Scrum or Kanban as a mechanism to deliver that new innovation that you came up with. We teach
Mm-hmm.
them how to build software in Python,
Okay.
because that's my background is in software engineering. That's what I originally went to undergrad school for.
Okay.
Um, and we also teach them about what we call job readiness.
Okay.
Teach them how to write a resume. We use Kanban. Teach them how to use Kanban as a mechanism for delivering different aspects of their resume, how to interview, how to do handshakes, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
And now we include design thinking, and we're adding one more thing this year.
Okay.
We're going to expand. Not only could you program in Python, but let's teach you how to do machine learning now. Let's get you into the AI space, right?
Okay.
And so we're bringing that into those underestimated communities
Mm-hmm.
of working with high school students. That's what we work with. We work with high school
Okay.
students and industry professionals. We teach industry professionals our curriculum,
Yeah.
and they come in and help to deliver this value back into the community. This is
Mm-hmm.
how we scale.
Okay. No, that's good. I know you're
Yeah,
having an impact, and that's been going on since 2015,
yeah,
right?
yep. 2015. Oh no, 2014. But
2014.
2015 is when we started with the Scrum Alliance.
See, a lot of times people are curious about Scrum outside of the class, outside of work, outside of IT.
Yeah,
And these are examples of Scrum, Kanban, Agile methods in general being used outside of the actual IT environment. So I'm very,
yeah.
very happy to hear that. So this is good. So you all can see that Dr. Dave does a million and one things, right? Uh, now share, tell us about that too. Come on now.
Yeah, well, Knowledge is just my online platform, right? So
Right.
that's where I've taken all of the knowledge that I've had throughout the years, and I built a series of courses that people could go and take on demand. So if you want to learn Scrum, go ahead and click on and sign up for a class,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you can learn both roles in terms of a Scrum Master, product owner. We have some stuff around design thinking. We
Okay.
just built out a leadership course,
Mm-hmm.
right?
No, that's good. Yeah.
That's talking about this generative agile leadership and
Mm-hmm.
what that is. So
Okay.
that's using some of Ron Westrom stuff, right? And then expanding upon that as a topic of how do you lead. And I've run that through several, I've run like 2 cohorts already, and they're just like major large corporations, and their leadership learning how to navigate the space of agility
Yeah.
to be able
Okay.
to enable their people, right? So.
What, okay. So what don't you do? That's the real question. What don't you do? You making me feel like I
Oh
don't do
man,
nothing.
no man, I just I, I just take the skills that I'm given, right?
Yeah.
You're given. They said to whom much is given, much is expected. So I take all the skills that I'm given and I give back to my community.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever I'm working with, I'm willing to share whatever I have, man, because um, that's how we need to work. And I'm
Yeah.
really, really focused on how do we help the BIPOC community, come up. And I know you're doing a lot of work. You and Liz, you're doing a lot of work in that space. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not just how the BIPOC community could come up, but I also look at it from the perspective of poverty,
Yeah.
right? How do we bring people who may not have the means, black, white, not only Latinx,
Yeah.
right? Even though my eyes are on the BIPOC communities, like how we bring all of the people who are like struggling through poverty to learn this skill, right? Because
Agreed.
look, man, this skill has given us an opportunity to make a fairly decent living in life.
Yeah.
And how
Decent
do we
living
pass
and
this
impact.
along, right?
I mean, decent living and
And
impact,
impact, right?
right? So we get a
Yep,
little bit of both of it, right? And there's not a lot
yep,
of
yep.
us involved in this space, period. So here's the deal, Dr. Dave. This you are literally when I say to you for real, for real, for real, for real. You are the first time that I have invited a guest on, right? Truly invited a guest on, right?
What?
I have not invited anybody to the show because I really just come here, and whoever decides to come and ask questions, they'll just throw questions in the chat, and we just normally leave it at that, right? It really is for that purpose, and it's really like a Scrum meetup where people can just talk directly to me, and we just work through whatever it is. And they could join the show just like this, and we can just really have a conversation. And so it's been really a great thing to have during COVID because it allows a one-on-one connection, right? Without me being
Without a
able to see
doubt.
them. So I'm very happy to have you on because this past week we've had a lot of things happen in the world, right? This whole Russia Ukraine thing, and regardless of what people think about it, I'm not trying to be political. I definitely my heart goes out to people who I know that are Ukrainian, right? Because I remember I went to Serbia 2019, something like that, and I was going to go to Ukraine. At least I was going to visit a lot of places in the Baltic. And I really was going to go to Russia as well, but I didn't get the opportunity, and I wish I did. But really, our topic today is really using Scrum and other methods to help people in crisis, right? And I thought you would be amazing to bring on because you are dealing with people when you start talking about children, high school students. I'm assuming,
Yep.
and this is not a crazy assumption, I would hope. I'm assuming that you are not going to places where there are influential high school, affluent high school students, right? You're probably going to go where there's some struggling high school students. They may not be doing so well. You probably go inside of particular communities like BIPOC communities and focus
Yep.
in on them. And a lot of times we're dealing with people that are in crisis. So I'll get the number one thing out the way, and then I'll let you answer it first. How do you feel about what's happening in the world today with that whole war thing, and not trying to be political, but just general thoughts?
Well, what I'm reflecting on, and I'm trying to remember her name, and I'll look it up. But
Mm-hmm.
last year, yes, I was given the opportunity to be a mentor in the Women in Agile organization, right? Women in Agile is an organization that focuses around how do we bring more women into this space.
Right.
So last summer, I had an opportunity to mentor this young woman. She's an actual woman who has family, lives in Kiev.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And so, my heart is heavy in terms of the time that I've spent with her, mentoring her to present at the Women in Agile conference last year. So that's where I'm at,
Okay.
and a very personal note because this is someone that I that I've actually met and talked to and had conversations with and watch her triumph by bringing her idea
Mm-hmm.
um, back to the community. So um, I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to see this level of aggression, right? Just disrupting and people and the level of violence. And I'm an ex-military person, so I think about these things from that context and the type of trials and tribulation that those people are struggling through by
Mm-hmm.
being displaced. There's nothing worse than that, to be displaced from your home.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have to go into some other country where they probably may or may not want you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I am in terms of what's happening there. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of stuff is we do with the agile space often sometimes end up in Ukraine, and she was a practitioner. So yeah, my heart is heavy in that context because I don't know, how she's doing. I haven't heard back from her on it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has kids and a family. So, all of that stuff, when you get to meet people one on one, even though we've never met face to face, we've
Yeah.
met through
Yeah.
this digital realm. Um, you could still connect with another human being, right?
Very true.
Because I want to tell you, like Agile for Humanity, its origins started in working with NGOs. The
Mm-hmm.
idea was to take agility and bring that through NGOs into the world so they could figure out how to work differently, how to impact people differently. And so I just wanted
Now,
to,
now slow down,
you
slow
can
down,
see how
slow
that,
down, slow down, because
yeah,
you got to say what
yeah,
NGOs are for people who may not have been exposed to those three letters.
yeah. Well, non-government organizations, right?
Okay, great.
You know, all of those, all of those different companies who are out there on the front lines when you see there's war and on famine, all of those
Mhm.
different organizations who are out there, Habitat for Humanity, those are all NGOs, right?
Okay,
Who are out there serving the needs of people. So, Agile for Humanity started with that mindset of,
okay.
of how do we take our good practice, the practice that you and I benefit from
Hmm.
every day, how do we bring that into those organizations to deliver value faster,
Yeah.
um,
So,
so that's where I'm at.
so I'm in a similar place because I have met native folks from Ukraine, right, who came over here, or especially when I was over there, just meeting people in general. And my hearts go out to the families more than anything else, right?
Yeah,
Because, you know, my family got hit by Hurricane Andrew, and this is not close. You understand? It's not close. Because
yeah,
you have to literally, when you say displaced, you have to, at a drop of a dime, grab everything that you reasonably own and take it with you. So it's like your family pictures, right? You know how you have an old grandma picture, you haven't digitized it yet, right? Or you have this thing, a couch, that's been passed down through the family, or this trinket or that trinket that you plan to pass down. And now you have families that are going to be displaced. And even if countries are allowing them in, it's just not understanding why it's happening. Like, it's almost like there's no reason for this to be happening whatsoever. And it is something that's happening to them. And I can't imagine if I was on the receiving side of it, or if I was the giver of it, right? If I was the one that was being the person that was actually pushing for this to happen. Regardless of what your position is in this, there is going to be an end to this at some point, and people will be impacted, right? So whether Russia succeeds at what they're doing or Ukraine succeeds, you can end up with a country that is completely devastated, not just by what's just happening right now, but let some bombs truly fly, or let some of the worst nightmares actually happen. And now you got a place. You look at Chernobyl. Chernobyl's haven't recovered, right? From what
yeah,
happened there, right? So realistically, this is what you're dealing with in terms of that world. So you have done work, obviously, with NGOs. You have done work in more crisis, and I would say that probably the work that you've done has faced more crisis, or dealt with more people that are facing crisis than what I have. So, how do you think that Scrum, Agile, Kanban, the other methods, um, would play in a space when it comes to crisis and crisis management?
when I think about the Scrum values, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I start with, right? Because it's really about mindset
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about how do we bring respect into the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
We treat people with fairness and kindness, and I don't use the word, you know, I use the word kindness um, because it's part of the conversation of love, right? When you talk about what's love, love love. One of the definition of love is around kindness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, using these core values of what the Scrum values is, we start with, let's start with respect for people, and then how do we walk down the space where we could start having a stronger commitment to helping them in whatever needs that they do have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that takes courage, right? Even when they're difficult. I remember, going into an actual church and trying to teach them how to use Scrum and Agile as a practice so that they could go do work in South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it takes courage for people to be able to have respect, have build up some level of commitment and bring courage in there. But then it goes into how do we have focus around paying a deep attention to the work that needs to be done, the outcomes that we're pursuing,
Mm-hmm.
and then carry that forward with some openness, right? That we're sharing that work and challenges with the teams, with different people in the organization. So that's where I begin
Okay.
in that mindset, in that context, right? So how do we connect as human beings? These things are of what's working with this principle. Some people call them soft skills, but he likes to call them elastic skills.
Okay.
So which was I hadn't thought about it that way.
Oh,
I thought about it with soft skills, but elastic skills. Okay, that's stretchy, it's expandable. And so if we could start there with thinking from those five different tenets,
yeah.
then it makes it a lot easier of how we could start to bring in the framework itself
Mm-hmm.
to go ahead and start delivering value, right?
Well, and I agree
Or
with the
get in that
values
journey.
completely because the only thing that I would
Yeah.
add to those values as a prerequisite, right? Because in me working in medical fields and hospitalish environments, right? Um, there's safety that needs to come first, right? So before we can
Hmm.
do any of the elastic skills, people have to feel safe. It's one thing about physical safety. We could talk about psychological safety. Safety. We can talk about safety on many levels, but probably making safety as a prerequisite is probably where the entire conversation starts, because you're just not going to get as many people that are willing to risk all those extra things without having safety as a prereq first. So I start off there initially, and then I definitely can add the Scrum values, and then the manifestos, values
Yeah.
and principles as well to just that whole thing. So I agree with you completely on where we can take it. And that's good. And I see a comment from Michael. You know Michael Tucker, right?
Oh my God. Do we have to deal with it? Man, didn't we just deal with him Friday and Saturday? What do we
We
have to
did
deal with
deal
him
with him
again
Friday and
tonight? What's
Saturday,
up with that?
right? So we need to talk about using Scrum to get Africans out of the region, right? I agree with getting Africans out of the region. I know I got a lot of good friends from India. And when you start thinking about people who can't go back to their country, what about Afghans or people from Iraq that really can't? They have no country to go back to. So
Right.
even though I think about Africans and I think about almost anybody, my question becomes: there's a lot of people that stranded over there, and they're possibly stuck. They probably aren't going to have too many resources to help them move forward in one direction or another. And when you think about people who don't have a country, what do you think we do about that, Dr. Dave?
Man, that's a hard thing, right? To not have anywhere to go back to.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Caribbean, right? In
Oh
the
man,
U.S.
yeah, you
Virgin
did, you
Islands.
did, you did, you did. Oh
So I'm an
yeah,
island
yeah, you
man.
did.
So, God, I could only imagine just not being able to go back there to visit my family, some of the culture. And I was just there in November, going to the beach, and those things what I'm talking about seems so trivial compared to what a lot of these men and women are facing right now, right?
Wow.
In Ukraine, they have nowhere to go back to, So the thing is that how do we get other countries who are willing to open up, right? And allow them in as one context. Or the second context is as I'm connecting with other brothers and sisters in Africa, especially in Nigeria. how do they begin to start building the scaffolding that allows, people who have had to leave to go back there and begin again using agile mindset. And then we could get back into, you know, some of the manifesto type elements. So that's why I start with the Scrum value. And hear me out. Respect,
Mm-hmm.
the respect, and as I think about it, the patience and kindness is love. And in order to have psychological safety, because the definition of love is patient and kindness. That's what the definition is,
Okay.
right? And if that's where you start, then psychological safety is a lot easier to get to. You see
I
where
agree
I'm
with that.
coming from with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
So that's
emotional
why I
over here,
start
Dr.
there.
Dave. I'm gonna tell you why I'm emotional, right? I'm emotional because, hey, here's the truth, right? Here's an absolute truth, which is ridiculous, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
Outside of America, I don't have another home.
Mm.
So, literally, if something happened here, there is no place for me to go.
Yeah, you do. You could come with me, man.
Come on, man.
You're
I
welcome.
like that, but I gotta bring my
You
whole
no no
crew with
no no no
everybody,
no.
right? But you understand what I'm
Come
saying?
with me. But even though it's owned by the United States, I'm saying come with me. You could come come
I would
come
have
hang
no
out with
problem.
us.
I would have no problem going.
There you go.
But my thought process is, I'm thinking to myself, if the United States something happened here, where would I go?
Yeah.
And that's the situation. I mean, I can only imagine that many people in Ukraine have somebody in another country that they could connect to, right? I would think that many of them, let's just say only 50% of them have that, right? But
Yeah.
it's not just me. I think about the whole south side of Chicago, right? And people who have never. I mean, if you get down to the grassroots of it, my grandmother, my mother really never left the south side of Chicago until she left, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
what would happen if something happened to Chicago or Dallas, or where would people go? I mean, it's big enough for us to spread out across the United States, but imagine if we had to leave. I mean, being African American is a whole nother problem because you got so many more generations here than many, many other people. So you really don't have no connection, no place. So I would say that is truly scary. Like getting hit by a
Well, it
hurricane is
is.
scary, but that thought is really
Yeah.
scary.
Well, it is because I've worked in the South Side of Chicago. I used to work at the University of Chicago. Back in the day. So I've worked, lived, been around Hyde Park.
So you work with Obama?
So well, Obama was probably coming up at the time because him and I are about the same age, but you know, he was doing his thing. He was
Right.
coming up at the time in
I
that
got you.
time when I lived there for the 10 years that I lived
Okay.
over in Chicago. So, I mean, I could relate to that. I could totally relate to where would you go,
Yeah, this is
right?
it hits hard because again, my family got hit by Hurricane Andrew, and that hits
Yeah.
you, and it really it's you got to go, right? It's not like you sticking around, you got to go. So just understanding that devastation versus a man-made devastation made by war, and then you don't even understand why it's happening. So I
So I could
couldn't
one
explain.
up you in that. Just
Mhm.
imagine being hit by Hugo on a little island like
Oh,
St.
yeah,
Croix
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
St. Thomas. Right? Where do you go?
Yeah, where do you go? Yeah, yeah.
Nowhere.
And I'm
Nowhere to go until it's done.
It's true. That is true.
So
It's nowhere to go.
yeah,
Yeah, I
you
went to
know,
Puerto Rico after it got hit by the hurricanes twice, right? And
yeah,
and it was years later, and it was still recovering, right? You go down to New Orleans, the place is still recovering. So
yeah,
what happens when you're getting bombed?
man. It's you know,
It's a whole different reality.
there's well, I mean, just think when we think about this, the impact of safety,
Right.
the psychological aspect of safety, not in the way that we think about it, in agility of being able to
Yeah.
express
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
but think about safety, physical safety,
Physical safety.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Where bombs are falling, we're watching your loved ones die, losing all of your way of life. I mean, that is hard stuff to really
It Yes.
begin to internalize and carry that forward. So think about the impact of those kids and what they may become if they don't have, the right tooling, or if they don't have some of these practices of, hey, can we bring these Scrum values as a
Yeah.
way to shift the way. We don't have to talk about religion, right? But we could use these Scrum values, these 5 Scrum values, of a way to start to change their hearts and minds, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Around how they, yeah. So I like playing with the Scrum values because there's so many different ways that we could use that, either in coaching and training and mentoring and facilitating, to help people to think about things differently,
I
right?
agree with you. So, Patrick, I appreciate you saying I can come. You'll take the whole clan. Again, I need to come on over is what I
Patrick
need to do.
Tyro.
Yeah. So I
What's up, Patrick?
appreciate that. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. If you all have any questions, you are welcome to ask your question. You can throw it in the chat. And we'll answer your questions. So I'll throw that out there because it takes a few minutes for everybody to get it. Also, if you want to join us on the show, you're welcome to join us as well. I always throw the link out there, so I'll throw the link out there. I didn't throw it out there earlier because I didn't want anybody jumping on, because I was going to talk to this man first, right? Before anybody else tried to hog up time with him. I was just being a little selfish first, right? So I'm going to throw that out there, so then you all have that available to you. So you're welcome to join the show, or just throw your comments in the actual chat. That's perfectly fine. And again, yeah, that's a reality for the hardland, the actual mainland U.S. It is a hard truth. I would agree with that. So we got a hey, Dr. Dave, so you're getting hays and
What's up,
everything else.
Patrick?
So this is pluses. All right. So that being said, I do understand being shell shocked, because I'm from the south side of Chicago and I didn't think I was going to live past 21. And so since I didn't believe I was going to live past 21, it's one of those things, navigating the gang areas, navigating the different neighborhoods. When I went to college, it took me probably a year to 2 years to calm down, like to not feel like I was constantly being attacked. I remember one guy saying to me, you need to leave the South Side on the South Side. Because just came in with such a broad chest, like, I'm from the South Side of Chicago, try me, right? And so I can understand, I'm thinking about how the kids are going to be, and what their lives are going to be, because this will be a major event for them for the rest of their lives, right? This will
Oh
be
yeah.
something that will have an impression on them in some kind of way. And there are children dying for sure, because bombs, don't discriminate. They don't go across some specific generation and kill off all older versus younger. That doesn't happen, right? There's no name to it. Just like there's no name to a bullet. So it just becomes more interesting as we kind of start thinking about how to deal with things. So if there was something that we could do now, Dr. Dave, in the next, let's just say next 3 months, as we see how things play out, what do you think we could do as a community as things start to get more stable, as people feel more safe? Because I wouldn't say that we can go in and start touting, a bunch of our mental stuff, right? When people don't feel physically safe. That's a whole different
Yeah.
problem. So once we get to a place where we're kind of rounding that corner, right? What do you think are some of the first things that we probably can do as people that's privileged to be involved in the field that we are in? What do you think?
So I'm going to start in a place that, most people may go, that's not the right place. But I like to start with prayer. That's where I start, right? And however people want to manifest their prayers, that's great. To me, that's a start.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other aspect of it is that I don't think this is going to be something that is going to fix itself anytime in the near future. So the other thing is, we may have a bit more means, right, in terms of financial means, so we could contribute back to some of the NGOs, the non-governmental agencies who are working in those spaces, to help. I mean, because basically we can't go there physically because we would be in danger, right?
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at some of the Africans right now who are trying to get out of
Right.
Ukraine to get into Poland, and I go, no, not you. You can't go. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's one way that we could help. Maybe we diverse move our funds focus on helping some of those people from Africa, from India, to get out of Ukraine to another country where they could find safety there. Maybe that's ways. Those are tangible ways that we could make change,
Okay.
right? Two different ways. One is through prayer, and also, how about giving some funds over, right, to see if we
Well,
could help in that way.
well, Rob says I was about to ask this question, so I'm assuming a question about how we can really help. And I actually
Right.
believe that I think that we don't always have to be the one at the front line that's providing the help, right?
No.
So the question becomes, could we help NGOs that are supporting, that's providing direct support that we want to see happening in the space? So if you're interested in Africans being helped out, there's probably an organization that is doing that, right? If you're into helping people get to Poland or giving money or whatever it is, I'm gonna move past money because money we can all give, right? But I'm talking about in terms of
Right.
us giving our skill set and maybe a little bit of our time, right? I think that NGOs might be the ticket for a lot of us that's not gonna go pick up a gun and put ourselves in harm's way. So
Or
tell
get on a plane
or get
as
on a
well and
plane.
go over there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And are they really gonna are they really gonna allow that to happen? You'd have to get close enough to get yourself to travel there in some kind of way. And some people
Yeah.
will do that. I no question, right? But
Right.
tell me about your experience working with NGOs and how you have connected with NGOs over the years.
Well, in the past, working with, it's interesting. Even though they may see the value of what you bring to the table,
Mm-hmm.
right? Oftentimes there's a certain level of resistance, of why are you bringing this to them and how
Yeah.
can this be beneficial. So the thing is, you have to build relationships like in anything else,
Yeah.
right? um, you have to build relationships with the people who are running those NGOs, such that you know they feel comfortable enough. So I would go in and run a class for them.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you how, as you're planning to move, 20, 30, 50 people over into this country to do all of these different things. Let me show you how we could visualize that and we could walk through that process
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that everyone is aware. We could measure, the success of what's happening there. If there are impediments, we could really quickly respond to them. So it's actually doing something that's tangible. So physically, when we were meeting physically,
Yeah.
I would actually go to these organizations and run these type of workshops for them. Sometimes it's multi-days that I would go in there, like on Saturdays or even during the week after work. I would go in there and put that energy in. So it's about showing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, the birth of the Five Saturdays program itself, and even Agile for
Okay.
Humanity, was about showing up, being
Mm-hmm.
present, being able to step into that space and give your time and energy,
Okay.
to move things forward. So, um,
I like
to
that.
me, that's how it works.
I like that.
You know,
But you're really saying
yeah,
is it doesn't work much differently than any place else. Um,
not like anything else, right?
yeah, the people, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the
yeah,
day. And so realistically, I would say you can actually, for those people who are watching this, or will watch this in the future, right? You can
yeah,
actually find some place that you love, right? If you know of an organization that is providing help, they're looking for help right now. They're looking for help. They don't want you to get in the way, but they're looking for help. And I have a lot of people that join my classes that are making statements like, I want to volunteer. I want to volunteer, right? And with all these organizations that's needing help, have you found the organization that you can pair up with and actually do provide some help? Because I haven't seen that organizations have stopped looking for help, right? And so Patrick says that was a good case of where social media brought pressure to bear and create an avenue for black people to get out of the war zone. Eastern Europe has a racism problem that has reared its ugly head. Yeah, and I would say that You know, the only problem is you have over in Europe is that it had a lot of Africans there long before a lot of other people was there. You know, so if you look and you look at before, people like to only think about slavery, but if you go look, you know, blackhead, the Moors, there's all kinds of blacks that existed in Europe, and there is a whole black thing in Europe. So, you know, racism is a fact. It's in Europe. It's here. People don't like to look at it that way in Europe, but I agree. Social media has definitely been helpful for the plight of people over there that's trying to get out. So that is definitely a major, major plus. So as we're kind of in our final 10 minutes, right? Anything at the top of mind that you would like to discuss, Dr. Dave? Because I've been asking you questions. I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything you'd like to talk about or express to the people that are going to see this now in the future?
So my thing is that how do we continue to use this great gift of agility? Because I treat it as a gift,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, the different frameworks, and I just don't get into the religion of frameworks, right? You know, it's a tool to help me, my customers, my community to do things better. You know, how can we, as in the design thinking space, we may say, how might we use these tools and skills to help different types of organization, things that's the NGOs, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had people who came in on during the Agile for Humanity conference and talk about schools,
Yes.
education, right? And how, you know, how do we use these different skills? And that's the way I think about this,
Mm-hmm.
is that how do I take these different practices and allow it to be a thing that each one of these individuals can learn? And that's where you and I come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're both teachers, we're coaches, we're trainers, we do all of these different, you know, things for money, you know, but also how do we give back some of our time to build up that capability? Because
Agreed.
you know, the way I view this is that we have an opportunity to shift legacies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm using the word shift legacy in a very
Yes.
powerful way,
Yeah.
that we could take all of these different tangible skills and even
Mm-hmm.
intangible skills and begin to bring that into different communities so that they could start to figure their way out,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because that's the game, right? That's the shift in legacy aspect of it.
Yes.
You know, they learn these skills. So, you know, I would like to see that more people in our space begin to do that. And I know that, you know, most people who work in the agile space, you know, we a lot of people is really focused on the money, but I
Right.
think there's another, you know, aspect of it of how can we continue to give, you know, in a positive way to help our communities to be better. And I don't care, and I'm not talking, I'm talking across
Yeah.
racial lines and everything else like that, because that I care about poverty. To me, that's the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we all have enough,
Yeah.
we don't have the scarcity mindset. So I don't have to come and try to trounce you, you know,
That's true.
because I don't have enough. But if we all have enough, then, you know, it becomes a different conversation, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I can't disagree. I agree with that completely because when I think about me and being in poverty, really it was why would I be in this situation and other people have 10, 20, 30 times what we have? That's not fair.
Yeah.
There's nothing fair about it, right? So I agree with you 10,000%. Um, so you and me, we need to make a public promise, right? Um,
Yeah.
we said we were going to help someone, right? And there was a young lady who worked with the Navajo community, right? She's Navajo,
Yes.
right? And she
Yeah.
expressed
Angela.
Angela, right? She expressed a
Yes.
need, right? And I gave her my information. You know, she seemed a bit shy, so I don't know if she's gonna reach out to me, right? But you seem to know her better than me,
Yes.
so
Let's partner on this because her and I are having the same conversation, right?
okay,
Um, how she got connected to Agile for Humanity is through, you know, a relative of mine who is part of the University of Arizona
mm-hmm.
um, machine learning, you know, data science program. So that's how we connected, and
Mm-hmm.
she is really intrigued by what's going on with the Five Saturdays program and also the concept of Agile for Humanity. So we could partner.
Yeah,
You and I could partner and go and start bringing that into the Navajo Nation, right? I like to, I believe in the concept of equip people so that they could carry this forward. Even though we may go the first time or the second time, it's really building the capacity in that community so that community could take it forward. Whether you and I are there or not, they could take it forward. They need to build, to have running water, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Yeah,
challenge.
that's a challenge. Yes.
In this day and age, that is the challenge in the Navajo Nation.
The internet.
Why can't we use some of these skills?
Yeah. So
Internet, all of that,
all of that is
right?
a challenge. And so
Yeah,
I agree with you because I'm always a proponent of getting myself fired. And that doesn't mean I'm getting fired physically. That means that I have
right.
equipped people with the skills where they can come back to me later when they need more.
Yep.
But they can go and do what they need to do. So this is a good thing, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I know you are already talking to her. I don't want to overwhelm her, but I would
Yeah.
ask that you get me involved on some level.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble, man. You're in trouble.
Hey, let me just tell you, I love it, right?
Good
Because
trouble.
there's no, I likely have Native American in me someplace, right? And I do a bunch of genealogy.
Yep.
I've been doing genealogy for 40 years. And, you can look at the names of people in my family, from a distant past and tell they were natives, right? Versus being Africans or from some other place. So I have I really would like to have an impact. And I'd like to have an impact on the ones that are truly, truly indigenous. Like I see these communities that don't look indigenous at all, but I'd like to have an impact on the ones that are really, really indigenous. And I probably could tell if I went to their school system, because their school system would likely be teaching the Trail of Tears the right way. So, it just is. I have to think about that, and I really want to get involved with the indigenous folks that really, really, really really have that past, right? So you was about to say something else.
No, I was about to say, yeah, we could make that happen, right?
Okay.
I think that she is the right person. She has connections through her grandparents who are actual educators on the reservation, so in the Navajo Nation. So we have a pathway in. We've been trying to find space and time
Mm-hmm.
to begin to plan that. For me, it's like, hey, I got to finish this conference. I'm just right now. I can't do anything until we have the conference done. But now the conference is over,
Okay.
now we can start to now it's time for me to hone in on what do we do with the 5 Saturdays program for 2022, right? Because so we can start to take that knowledge and share it out. Right.
So, Dr. Dave, I'm doing this PhD thing, so we just got to make a plan and
Uh,
plan it out. If we can plan it out,
okay.
I'm there. Whether it's physically there or virtually there, I'm there. So count me in. So on this note, I think that
So
we
we got to
have.
share. We got to share a Kanban board so I could, we can start to map it out, right? You got to have a backlog.
Send me your Kanban board, whatever you want to use, man. It don't matter to me. We could use a cardboard
All right, I'll
right here
do
for
that.
all I care. Stickers, it don't matter to me. I'm ready all day, every day. Y'all use Trello all day, so trust me, I'm ready. So yeah, so get her engaged, put her on the board, put me on the board. I'm there, no question.
Yep.
So everybody here, I'm gonna thank you for showing up, Dr. Dave. It has been a pleasure. You're blurry again. Do your hand thing.
I can't.
See you.
I can't stand this damn camera sometimes. It's like, what's wrong with you?
Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Dave. I appreciate you just calling you and asking you to come on yesterday, and you making the time.
Anytime.
For it. This is a pleasure. I appreciate you supporting me, and I'll support you anytime. Thank you, everyone who showed up with questions. But please, please, please support some of the things that Dr. Dave is doing. The 5 Saturdays. Even though he asked me to help out, he ain't made no time for me to help out. Let's put it that way.
I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you now, just to let you know.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
So I've been, I'm always
yeah.
giving back and doing stuff. So let's make it work. So on that note, everybody, I'm gonna tell you, I appreciate you. You can see this live anytime in the future. But Dr. Dave, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Okay.
But same here, man. Always, it's like much respect for the work that you are doing, you and Lizzie are doing, and anytime, anytime. You know that, right?
Okay. All right. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Dave. I'll be talking to you soon.
Take care, brother.
All right. Bye bye. Okay, that was amazing. That was a very different kind of show. First time I ever did a show like that, and we'll probably do it again. On that note, I'm gonna say thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful time. Look, for anyone who has family, friends that's involved in Ukraine, that is experiencing this conflict in any kind of way, my heart goes out to you. My thoughts go out to you. We are definitely in support of you for sure. On that note, we'll see you next time, and let's find something to do. Let's find something that we can do, Agile community, to help out. Thank you. Have a good one.